Hey, Ravens fans, Oriole fans, thank you for joining us here today. You know, I'm a button my shirt. Pretty okay. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Ravery Sports Podcast, the Baltimore Sports Podcast for fans like me. You can go ahead and like and subscribe to all of our social media content there. There we go. Now we got the ticker. Remember the ticker because we need to do business here at the beginning. So a couple things. Harris Legal Shield is the name of the business. Good stuff, good start that we've gotten for that. So thank you, all of you that have supported Harris Legal Shield in that. We're gonna the first live stream, especially as well. So we're having some meetings for that this week on Monday. So very happy about what's going on in that. Definitely, if you want to go ahead and buy a Legal Shield, look at all of our products. You can go ahead and look at the bottom on my website. See Charles Harris. wearelegalshield.com. Okay, so if you could just go ahead and buy, definitely the value is enormous for your legal shield if you have that. So everybody that's reached out to me has said that the value of it is tremendous. Buying a lawyer, so absolutely check that out. Genesis Notary Services /Facebook.com. So definitely that is the notary business if you are in the Shenandoah Valley area. We are going to have our Genesis Notary Services live stream on 2/19/2024 at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So definitely, that's Monday. So Monday, we're going to go ahead, President's Day, 12 o'clock. Definitely check it out, especially if you live in the Shenandoah Valley area. If you want to, we have a wedding officiant's arm. If you have a house inspection that you want us to do, notarize all your general notary needs. We come to you. We'll go ahead. We'll drive out. We will do it. Definitely have had several people, older people that definitely need notary services. You churches out there, you definitely need that. That's definitely a service that we have for you. And ravorisports.company.site. I showed it for the first time on Sunday on the website. So definitely check that out where you actually see the site, actually buy the products right on the website. Definitely ravorisports@gmail.com. If you don't see it on the website, I have it. I have a lot more stuff. There's only so much that I could put on the website here at first, but definitely check that out. Go ahead and get some of the products that's already on there. We have Lamar jerseys, Ray Lewis, a lot of those jerseys as well on there. A lot of those interesting. I showed you some of my private stuff that I have, my Jamal Lewis jersey, Kelly Gregg, and all that old school stuff. So definitely you can go ahead and get that on the website. One more thing, big announcement here. If you haven't seen it already, our MLB predictions video is going to be on March 24th, 2024. So that's going to be, we're going to predict who's going to be in the World Series, who's going to win MVP, who's going to win the division. Maybe the Orioles be predicted to win the whole thing. So let's see. We're going to talk Orioles later in this. But we're going to get down to the business of football. Okay, so football now is all over. Now that the Super Bowl is over, a little bit about the Super Bowl today, but we'll go ahead and talk about that. But team needs. So last week we talked about who is a free agent on the team, and this week we're going to talk about what the team actually needs in the off season. So last week we talked about who's free agent. Super high. I think it's 23 unrestricted free agents. That's a lot. In the off season, you don't have this many. So even though you had a good season, you have a unique group of free agents where you have a lot of these one-year guys, these vet guys that had extraordinary seasons that play well for you, and you don't have them under contract. So you would think maybe, okay, that you don't have needs because you play so well, but you maybe have more than you would usually. So we went through the list of what's there. Let's lock in on what the team needs, the Ravens, in 2024. Okay, so here's probably what they're not going to do in the offseason and any significant dollars. Fullback is one. If they have one, it's just a matter of now. If they bring Ricard back every year, at some point, maybe they'll decide to do that. And it depends on the offense if they continue to run fullback. Ricard was still very valuable. I thought they didn't run traditional fullback nearly as much, but I think also too, especially with the injury to Mark Andrews, he played a little D line, so they're creating a spot for him. So I definitely think he'll be back. Tight end, that's next. Mark Andrews has definitely made it back. So he played in the AFC Championship, so you don't have to worry about offseason if he's going to play. Isaiah Likely and Charlie Cole were more than adequate, and they're back. Center, that's not going to happen. Probably the one thing on the line is the center position that they're probably going to keep. So they're not looking at that. Nose tackle, I think they're in good shape. Travis Jones and Michael Pierce are signed, so definitely not going to look at that. Inside linebacker, I don't think so either. Some people might disagree with that one there, but I don't really see any significant dollars, and that's what I mean here. Significant dollars. You might sign a vet at some point, but I don't think they're going to spend any money on those things as well. Possibly targeted. Okay, so maybe not here. We're going to talk more about running back, but that's a possibility. I have it kind of low on the list. Backup quarterback and safety. So that's one. Safety, I'm not sure if they're going to do that. I think they're going to sign a running back at some point, but is it a starter or is it a backup? We'll see. I don't, because we're not quite sure. It may not be a need at all. They may not look at it. So we will see that. It's on the list. But I have 6, including running back. I did put that there. Possibly they're targeting it, possibly not. But I'll explain that here. So what the team needs are, what's actually here. So Marlon Humphrey coming off the injury, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think at this point, though, we do have more concerns about him than we've ever had because he's not been healthy. He basically, none of last year, I thought he was healthy. Maybe in a game or two, he was okay. But he was basically, that hammy bothered him all season. Looking back on it, maybe he'd have been better off just sitting out the first 6-7 games and then playing when he was fully healthy, but he kind of didn't. He was kind of battling it all season. Brandon Stevens, what a difference a year make. I did the video last season, like the 53-man prediction, barely having him on the roster. He was the best corner last year, and it wasn't close. He was fantastic all season. Now, here's the drama. Darby, Ronald Darby, Arthur Mullen, Rock Ya-Sin, Trayvon Mullen, all contributed, all are free agents. Darby, I thought, was terrific. Mullen, I thought, was terrific. Rock Ya-Sin, not as, about okay-ish, but he wasn't as high on the list as the other two. Trayvon Mullen, I think they think he has a lot of potential, maybe, but he's gone. They're definitely going to need a corner of some kind. Interesting to see what they do with Marlon. Very interesting to see what happens if they ask him to do anything with their contract. His contract probably brings him back, but it'd be fascinating if it wasn't to really see if it is. But definitely they're going to need some depth here. They're definitely going to have to do that. I thought last year in the draft they'd take one in the first round. I don't think they're going to do that, but it wouldn't shock me if they did. Wouldn't shock me if they took one in the first round or earlier than what people thought if that was the best player on the board. Not a great draft for these guys. I don't know how much money you're going to spend with Marlon Humphrey's contract as well. See if you can maybe get Stevens an extension too, the way he played. How will that cost as well? That could be expensive. Outside linebacker. It seems weird that this is a need considering how good Kyle Van Noy and Jadeveon Clowney played. But really, a lot of the question marks that you had at the beginning of last year haven't been answered at all outside of that. So Van Noy and Clowney kind of bailed them out. The circumstances they had, because they played obviously so solid. Both had 9 sacks. So, but we still heard a lot of last year figuring out. Ojabo barely played. Tyler Bowser, not at all. Terry Robinson still developing. So you're kind of almost right back where you started. Definitely a position in the draft. They're definitely going to look at that. They're definitely going to take a guy in the draft, that outside linebacker, rush in there at some point in the draft. If it's going to be sooner rather than later, what do they think of the group of of guys in there. Also, too, is it possible they could pull the trigger on big money in free agency for somebody? Brian Burns, we'll get to more deeper dive free agents. Brian Burns is from Carolina. I really like. He's definitely a guy that's out there. Hassan Riddick for the Eagles might be available. So this is definitely a spot where, considering how many sacks you had, you need to upgrade as well. Running back. So I had that on a possibly targeting, but I think they definitely may be targeting it here. We'll see at the running back spot as well. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I definitely wanted to go over it. So you have J.K. Dobbins, who's free agent, Keaton Mitchell coming off the injury, Gus Edwards, free agent. I think Justice Hill has a contract, has one more year. Dalvin Cook, definitely free agent. I, boy, I got no idea. I got no idea simply because I don't know what the value they're putting in on running backs is. Do they think Keaton Mitchell's a number one back? Do they think Gus Edwards is a number one back? Do they even want a number one back? That's probably the gripe I've been having for the last couple of years. JK, I don't think comes back under any circumstance. I doubt it. Doubt it seriously. Maybe a blue light deal if he's, something like that. I don't think he does. Justice Hill, I think, is probably back, at least if he has a deal. I think he does, coming back. Dalvin Cook definitely is probably a lower priority at this point. He's probably going to, I think, could possibly return to Minnesota. Wouldn't shock me if that happened as well. Gus and Keaton Mitchell, I think, makes a lot of sense. If you can have a healthy Keaton Mitchell. I'm concerned about this if you don't have Gus Edwards. That's the thing. I think I think that's been their security blanket here in the Lamar Jackson area. They've had Gus Edwards when this other stuff didn't work, and it'll be interesting to see how much of a priority it is. Very difficult to tell, but it's definitely area where you got some spots there. Offensive line is a big deal. John Simpson and Kevin Zeitler filled in at starter. Left guard competition last year. To my surprise, John Simpson came out the winner of the competition and started pretty much in every game. He's one of the more durable guys. So I thought he actually did pretty good considering. I don't think he was spectacular, but better than good. Definitely NFL starter, good stuff. Zeitler, I think, is one of the best right guards in the league. I think he's one of the best right guards in Raven history, but it's a free agent. I can't see them bringing him back simply because it's too big of a need in the league. He's too good of a player, even at his age, which is probably, I'm thinking, why they didn't do a long extension, but he knows he can get more money elsewhere. I don't think they're going to do that, the Ravens. So who's here? Latu in the left guard competition came in second there. Ben Cleveland. Could he finally get a start? He's got one more year. Here's a name maybe you forgot. Andrew Voorhees, the right guard for the Ravens in the draft. Basically, Voorhees was a redshirt, so we don't exactly know what he has. He was hoping that he basically got a redshirt year, drafted him late. Hopefully he could come in and be in the mix for the competition. Ben Cleveland, I think, would be a very interesting one. I think they've kind of figured out with him, he has to play on the right side and not the left side. Some guys are like that. Some guys are like Macchiari where they can play all over. I think Cleveland has to stay at right side, so it'll be interesting. It is possible if they can fill both of these spots in-house. I think this is probably where they're going to work some draft magic. I'd be shocked if they didn't actually take a middle round guy of some kind and see if he could start for you. That's what I would think. I don't think there's a lot of, if you look at the draft, there's not a lot of guards high, second round. I think probably third or fourth round, maybe they're hoping somebody will start if they draft that somebody that high. Wide receiver. I have this higher than I've seen. I think some people think this is a lower priority than others. I think it's still pretty high. We're not nearly where we were last year. So not that bad, but I think the issue is you got a lot of free agents here as well. Zay Flowers is going to be the number one receiver going in the next season. I don't think there's any question about it. Who are you going to pair him up with? That's the thing. As Rashad Bateman is back, I think as well. There may be he started in the AFC Championship over Beckham. I think that could be the precursor to next year. They could be saying, you know what, we're going to have these guys. We're going to see how it goes. I think Bacon is actually a decent receiver, as quiet as it's kept. I just think he's having trouble staying healthy. That's the problem. I mean, he gets open when he's on the field. So I could definitely see him doing that. I could definitely see them doing that. I think you have to take the receiver anyway. Odell, I don't think he comes back. See, I know one thing for sure. You could put this in pen, or ink or stamp or note whatever you want. They're not going to bring him back at the money he was getting. He's going to take $5 million or less, or he's not going to be back. I don't think he does. I don't know if you're going to get a healthy enough Odell over a 17 games. Aguilar, I like to see him come back. I'm not sure that he will, but I like to see it work out. I thought Aguilar is just what the doctor ordered. Having Flowers, Bateman, and Aguilar 1, 2, 3, and you draft somebody, that can work. That can work. I think Aguilar was pretty good last year. The role he's in, I think, is the role he should be in. Interesting to see if that works. Devin Duvernay, I think it's more of a long shot with him returning because I don't think they're going to spend that type of money basically on a kick punt returner. That's essentially why he's on the team. That might play him a little bit more, but it'd be interesting to see. Again, I think that $3, $4, $5 million. What does he want as far as contract? What can they do? What it looks like? I'm more thinking they're going to go in the draft and find a kick returner, or maybe hey, look, Tylan Wallace, the guy underneath of him, was pretty good against the Rams. So they could be thinking that, hey man, we got Tylan Wallace here. We're going to give him another shot as a kick returner, kind of. And I can see that as well. He can kind of fill, I think, the role that Duvernay was in. So how much money you want to spend on that? Number one is offensive tackle. This is huge, huge, huge. Ronnie Stanley, oh God, is not healthy enough to play left tackle at this league anymore. There's no way. Every week he's not practicing, or then Coach John Harbaugh said, well, you need to practice. Well, it's not. You got to do something at this point. Morgan Moses has been pretty good, I thought, but even he now is like he's in his late 30 now, 34-ish. I don't know if he continues to start. The tread maybe was on the tire a little bit. They were kind of pulling him out. He had his first injury. He's been very durable. We'll see if that. I could probably see him starting still, but we don't know. Patrick McCurry is a godsend. He's a sixth guy. You could put him anywhere. All those other positions I talked about, and guard and also center, you could put him anywhere. He's an NFL starter. I think, though, they'd rather leave him in the role he's in than have him start. That's where you're getting great value out of him. Daniel Falele, I don't know if you could put him at left tackle, but you might see it. Like they might try it. He is a big guy, huge, even for offensive lineman at 380 pounds. But I don't think they're going to put him on the right side yet. I think they don't want to. I'll put it this way: if Moses could play left tackle, I think that would be a thing. But I think Falele, as a first-time starter, I think they'd rather play him at right tackle. I think he'd be more effective over there. I don't know if that's going to be open. So it'll be interesting. Absolutely, this is your highest draft priority. They've done the Ravens. You can say whatever you want. They've done better than a lot of teams as far as drafting players high in the draft. So that's something I think they will do as well. I think this is absolutely number one priority. I don't care what they said about Ronnie Stanley and the presser. They cannot go another season and have this guy start. It's just not going to happen. This guy's not going to stay healthy for 16 games. If you kind of feel that way about Odell, and then you want to start Ronnie Stanley, the Ronnie Stanley contract right now, I think, and I'm not sure, we haven't done cap yet. I think it's probably the reason they're going to bring him back. It's so costly to go ahead and cut him that they'll probably bring him back. But they're absolutely going to draft somebody early or sign a veteran soon because you can't go another season with that. You just can't. It's just no way where you can actually go ahead and do that. There you go. So we looked at the Ravens team needs for 2024. So definitely let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and check that out as well. Next week, we're going to talk about the draft for the first time. The draft. So the NFL draft is coming. NFL draft targets. So we're going to talk about who the Ravens might draft in those positions. So now we know who's free agents. Now we know what the needs are. Then we're going to move to draft targets. So what kind of players you might see in the draft. So we're going to do a full draft, big board. We're going to do a Ravens type draft, Ravens mock draft as well for all the draft picks. But let's do not quite there yet. Let's go ahead and next week we're going to do draft targets. Now that we know what we need on the team as well. All right. Let's talk Terps. Get those NIT tickets ready. No tournament for the Terps this year, I don't think. You look at the record. This is as of this recording, that's the record. So if you're watching this on like a Thursday or Friday, they have a game after this recording. It's like 8. I'm dropping this at 8:00. So after that, if you're watching this, it's they're playing Iowa. So this week, so they're going to have this game on the 17th against the Fighting Illini. Fighting Illini just won their last game against Michigan as well. I did watch a little bit of this, the Fighting Illini last week when they played Michigan State. A very good game against the Spartans. Let's take a look at the Fighting Illini, who are in the top 20. Terrence Shannon is there. Terrence Shannon is a guard forward. He has 20 points a game, 4.1, 2.5 rebounds. He is probably their best player for what I could see here. This team actually has a good defensive team. This is very good defensively from what I could see here. They actually defend very, very well. This guy, believe it or not, the player this guy reminds me of is I hate to go too old school y'all here, but he's the name you would know would be a Doc Rivers when he was playing, or a Paul Pressey, or a guy like that. Bump basket is what he does. James Harden's a little bit like that to a lesser level, but he gets a lot of his points at the line. He goes bump basket, boom, I'll go to the line and get 2. Bump basket, boom, I go to the line. Draws contact, goes to the line. That's what I see a lot of Terrence Shannon. Good offensive player though. He's probably their best player as far on offense as well, leading a good Fighting Illini team. Marcus Domas, make sure I got that right. 15.5 points a game, 4.6 rebounds. That's of the game before Sunday. So these averages may not be exactly, as we're watching. If you actually go to ESPN or whatever, it might be a little bit low, a little bit higher. So that's it. Another old school guy, this guy reminds me of just kind of like Jalen Rose as well. That's probably what I saw with him. He wants to be a point guard, but he's about 6'7", 6'8". So they got him playing forward, but that's really not what he wants to be, because he wants to pass. He wants to go ahead, handle the rock. He's a good spot up shooter. He's not so good like with guys on, but he's a good spot up shooter. So if you can get him open, whatever, he can hit the jumper. So I don't think he's a guy, the alpha in the room, but definitely a guy with like a Terrence Shannon who likes to go to the basket. It works well for him because he can go ahead and hit that little spot open shot, and also too, he likes to handle the ball and feed Shannon there as well. I definitely think if Ty Rodgers wasn't the point guard, he'd definitely be playing point guard more often and handling more. I think it's a bit much to say that Quentin Grenier is a stretch 4, as much as I keep hearing that, but he's not really. He's about 6'8", 6'9". It's pretty good. I like him. I don't like his offensive game. I think, believe it or not, this is kind of what a lot of big guys do. They want to become Giannis Antetokounmpo, or they want to be Jokic, or they want to be these guys, when some of them should just focus more on the blocks. he's pretty good in the blocks, but again, they want to do this stretch four stuff. You see him shooting a lot. He's a decent enough shooter, not a really good shooter, but they try and use him more as a stretch four. When I think sometimes I think guys should focus on the block. That's just me, old school. But I think on his team, he doesn't have pressure to score because he's got Dominic there, he's got Ty Rogers there, he's got Terrence Shannon there. So probably he could do a little bit more. 11 points a game, has some good outings. He's been about 13 some nights, 15 some nights, kind of similar to the Terps. Jameer Young is terrific. I don't think that's right, though. Jameer Young has been terrific this season. He's been outstanding as far as his stats go. All right, so we got that squared away. Updating. Now, magically, the stats are right. 20 points for Jameer. I knew that wasn't right because he's been killing them on the court. Jameer Young has been the bright spot on the team for the years. 20 points, 20.9, 4.4 assists per game. Jameer's been really good, I think, all season long. He hasn't gotten enough help. He doesn't get enough help. Any night where Jameer Young just doesn't go crazy, they really haven't really stepped up to help him out. Dante Scott has been probably one of his biggest help. 11 points, 4-point rebound, 4.9 rebounds. I've kind of said this a couple times. I don't think he's as good offensively as the stats say he is. When I've seen him, he kind of feeds off Jameer Young and scores some. That's probably what he does the best. Jameer's having a good night, and then he wants to dish off and catch and shoot and go to the hole, things like that. Julian Reese, a little bit more than that, but that's about the same for him. He's giving you a little bit more than a Dante Scott is. I think he's a little bit more versatile, a little bit more. He's bigger, but he's kind of got that better going to the basket, better, I think, left hand in general, better handling the ball. So I think he does a little bit better there, but kind of same. Like he's not scoring enough by himself to really take emphasis off Young. So on the nights where he goes cold, where Young isn't as strong, these guys don't really step it up and help him. Kevin Willard did make a change in this game, and I think this is going to carry a height. D.H. Hess, Harris Smith was sat on the bench as well. Jamie Kaiser is now starting. Manatore is the big center, the 7-foot, like 6'11", 7-footer as well. Jordan Geronimo is going off the bench now as well. So he's aware of it, trying to get more scoring as well. So I think what he's trying to do is kind of what I said in this. If you get a little different type of lineup in, they will trying to get the other two guys going to get Jameer Young some more help at nights. Tor is a big. He's going to start for years to come here as well. Kaiser, I think, has flashes. The athleticism with Jamie Kaiser is off the chain, but he's not consistent enough some nights. Like if you can, there's some guys you see him play ball and they do these breakaway dunks all the time. It's like, whoa, well, what else did you do in the game? that's kind of what you see with Jamie Kaiser. It's at times you see it, the athleticism you see it, but it's not consistent enough. He doesn't in a game impose his will. That's what you're seeing. The only one they really have that's doing that is Jameer Young posing as well. I think the Illini probably win this game as well. I don't think the Terps are going to go to the tournament this year. There's nothing I've seen that makes me think they're way too inconsistent offensively. Defensively, they're inconsistent there too. There are some nights where I think they look good, where they really D up, and then there are some nights they can't. Even with players like Geronimo and DHS, who are supposed to be good defensive players, some nights they just don't have. I mean, offenses really score a lot on them. So there you go. I'm ready for the NIT. I'm hoping I'm wrong, obviously, because we love the Terps here, and we're hoping that that's not true. But I don't see it where they're going to the tournament as well this year. So hopefully, though, we'll see. We're going to go ahead and watch the game there, and hopefully the best for the Terps. Couple stories here, sports media real quick. So this happened. ESPN has agreed to $7.8 billion. I got this from Sports Illustrated. Shout out to them and all their issues going on right now. 7.8 billion 6-year deal for exclusive rights to expanded college football playoffs. So that's like that's they're going to 12 teams. For those of you who didn't know, so the college football playoffs, as it is not going to be in effect next year. They're not going to just going to have 4 teams and announce college football playoffs. So they went from the BCS championship game to the college football playoff. Now we have an expanded college football playoff. So all the games in the college football playoffs, ESPN is now the home for all of it as well. So you're able to watch all the games in one place. I'm going to say this. This is kind of like what I've kind of beat this drum, whatever. It seems like social media wants ESPN to go away. They're not going anywhere. I keep saying this. All this death, you're being gaslit, I think, in some places. All the death of ESPN. Their numbers are still very, very strong. They have like 11.3 followers on social media. I think it's bigger than a lot of sports. I mean, NFL, NBA, they have more sports. I think they just did this deal. Are they what they were? I think possibly not. I think they're not as ginormous in terms of the market share as they were. But yeah, I mean, Disney has some issues as well. I think that's probably right as well. But I mean, they're still not all this doom and gloom and stuff. I think it's a bit overstated when we say, okay, well, Disney, where ESPN is going away and all the other stuff. They own college football. I mean, that's just all it is to it. I mean, they are the Big Ten and SEC in terms of television is college football, and they pretty much have it all to themselves. You got the playoffs all to yourself. You got the SEC all to yourself. So, I but people, somebody's gonna say, well, it's going away. They can't afford it. Lamar, I saw this that he did not watch the Super Bowl this year as well. That he didn't watch the game. It was still too raw for him as well. That he didn't watch the fantastic game it was. Talk about that real quick. I did talk about it on Sunday, so I won't go too much in it, but it was a good game. 25-22. Chiefs go back-to-back with the Super Bowls over the San Francisco 49ers. So the Chefs, great drive late in terms of the touchdown as well. So Chiefs did win the Super Bowl there as well. They Niners, I thought, was one thing I did want to touch on it real quick. They didn't know the overtime rules, apparently, of the game. I'm gonna confess that I didn't either. I did not know if they'd have scored a touchdown that the Chiefs still would have got it. I thought it would have been over. So I'd have been like, that would have been real interesting. I thought they won the Super Bowl and they didn't win, but it didn't matter. I thought it was a moot point anyway since they kicked the field goal as well. Mahomes is Jordan right now. I mean, he's dominating at all levels. Those were better teams, you could argue, roster wise, and they still won. Circling back a bit though, Lamar didn't watch the Super Bowl. I did want to talk about this. I know a lot of you Raven fans didn't either. That's all I kept seeing. I noticed that I did the live stream, the Super Bowl stream on Sunday. I did not see a lot of Raven streams. A lot of the ones, they did not talk about it. They did not go over it. They did not. And I think I understand. I understand why we all felt like this was our year to win Super Bowl. I understand that a lot of you were disappointed. A lot of us, I was too. I mean, look, I had a whole day planned. Just getting it right with StreamYard and my cameras and everything, making sure we could do a whole day at the Super Bowl with the Ravens in it, but it didn't happen. So I understand. I understand that, but we let's drive on now that we're in the off season. Let's drive on and everything like that. As well, that we're Raven fans and that we're gonna go into the off season. We're gonna go get a good draft as well. But I'm bringing it up because I'm sensing like a downness in general from fans as well. So I think there's a point where we need to bounce back a little bit as fans to go ahead and go forward. We got Orioles season coming up here. We're going to go ahead and start talking baseball here in a second. But definitely, I understand, though, what Lamar said, what a lot of fans said. I noticed that big with content creators. I mean, I didn't see a lot of one. They didn't. I think, and I get it. I think for some people, it was just too hard to watch the Super Bowl or whatever. So I understand. I understand. So, but I like for all of us get back on so we can win the Super Bowl this year, 2024. All right, let's shift to baseball. As we go ahead and talk about, it says there the top 10 left fielders in MLB in 2024. All right, so we have been going over all the positions here. So we got a few left. We're going to do center field, right field. We are going to do a DH1 pitchers, top 10 starting pitchers, top 10 relief pitchers. We are going to go ahead and do that here. Baseball season is upon us. We're going to talk Orioles here in a second. Top 10 pitchers and catchers are reporting. I think it is tomorrow. So, all right. So that's where we're going to go ahead and talk here. But let's talk about the larger MLB, the outfielders. Who is the top 10 outfielders now in the MLB in baseball? Here's a guy, Nolan Jones, super underrated. I love, first of all, with him, he played right field last year. He played a little center. He's going to throw you out from the outfield. I think his throwing arm is enormously underrated. A lot of times that's not talked about with a guy as far as like an outfielder, his defense. His swing, look at it. It looks like the guy he reminds me of, even though he's an outfield, old school guy, Will Clark from the Giants years ago. I used to love to watch him swing. That's kind of who he reminds me of. Wearing that 22 and that swing, and he tremendous throwing arm. Very underrated. This young guy could be much higher, but he still really hasn't established himself yet. Really, still young, but he could jump up higher on here. But I couldn't put him higher. He hasn't done a whole lot yet. But Nolan Jones, really, lots of potential at number 9. Spencer Steer, first base last year at parts as well. Going to play a little left field this year for the Reds. So this is one of their building blocks here. This guy definitely has the opportunity. Another one here could really, it wouldn't shock me if he's like, if we're doing this list next year and he's got 24 home runs, he's got 30 plus home runs, he's got 100 RBIs. He's got that type of power as well. Defensively, not as good as Jones, but I think the power potential is enormous for him. Here's our guy, Austin Hayes. Austin Hayes, shout out to him. They've been trying to replace him for a long time, as much as they're going to say it. Him and Santander, for him to make an all-star game last year, shout out to him. He's a good, solid, all-around outfielder. His defense is solid. His hitting is solid. His power is solid. He's just solid. He's just solid all the way around. Really worked his way through, not the golden boy at all. And this been able, it seems silly, but he's been able to stave off a lot of really good outfield prospects. So good for him. Austin Hayes, I think he's in the top 10 in the league. I thought he was very deserving of the All-Star game. I don't think it could be his last one. Number 8, Austin Hayes. Brandon Nimmo, now playing left field for the Mets. The potential here is tremendous. He kind of, I will say, some people would say he hasn't fully lived up to his potential, but he's got a lot of like raw ability. I think he's one of these guys who has a lot of real raw skill. That's a lack of a better term. But some guy, he doesn't need 3 hours in the batting cage to get hits. Like he can just do it with his swing and his stride. Another one, I really like his swing. Brandon Nimmo, number 7, good defensively. I understand, though, if somebody says he hasn't lived up to his full potential, that's why he's not a little bit higher. But Brandon Nimmo's really good. Here's probably the Pirates' best player, Brian Reynolds. He's been in trade talks like every year. That's just part of being a Pirate, man. He's been pretty good though the whole time. I mean, he's got 20 plus home runs, 80 RBIs. You could definitely pencil that in for him. I think he's here because I don't think he's going to do better than that. I think he's about where he's going to be. I think that's about what he is. I think that's why they couldn't trade him or get too much for him because this is about where he is. But he's pretty good. I mean, definitely I think on a different team, he wouldn't have that high of a ranking, but he's pretty good. I think pretty good is nothing wrong with that. With him, he possibly can make an All-Star game, another All-Star game as well. Interesting, Steve Kwan. I didn't say the Indians this week. Said the Guardians. Steve Kwan. Steve Kwan's fantastic. I think he is as good of a leadoff guy. I like these type of guys. I like a leadoff guy, a tone setter, a table setter, great speed, hits the ball very well, great batting average. He's going to have, it's not going to be worse than 290. He's going to get a lot of steals. The problem is, it's kind of like running back in football. The value in a guy like this, people don't have for it like they used to, but he's fantastic. I think he's great defensively, great hitter, not really going to hit for power. That's the thing. But he does everything else very, very well. Steve Kwan, I have him at number 5. Dodgers now are going to put him in left field. There's a guy also, great throwing arm. How protected is he in that great Dodger lineup in there with those great hitters that they have? Sky's the limit for this guy. I really think he's a guy you can put him in the 30, 100 category as well. Hasn't done it yet, but in that lineup with Freeman and Ohtani and Will Smith and those guys, you better watch out for this guy and Betts and all that. Definitely he's a guy kind of going under the radar. I think you put him out in left field, I think he's a top 4 guy. Really do. Definitely lots of potential. He's been around that 2080 mark. He could definitely break out. I have Yelich maybe higher than what you thought. I do think they're still there. The power seems to be diminishing. So I think that's what everybody focuses on, but I think he's still really good. He hits for average well. He's still a guy in the lineup, I think, that kind of has plate. I know, like that's kind of a thing. Like I watch a lot of these top 10. They rattle off all these metrics, but I'm gonna give you one: plate presence. He's always had it. Somebody who stands up at the plate and he absolutely has the plate presence. He absolutely hits the ball still well. Is he in diminish? Possibly, but I think he's due for a good year with the Brewers. I think there's going to be a little less pressure on the Brewers in general. But he's still your main guy. I think in left field, I think he's at number 3. Ronnie Reza for the Rays. He's been really good. The Rays offense is better than what you think, and he's like right there as well. He's definitely a guy, I think. I don't know if he's going to hit 30 and 100 home runs, but he's definitely going to get you 25. He's, I think, one of the best, if not one of the best power hitters on this list. Definitely a guy I think that can do very well. Good defensively too. I like him defensively. I think like he's kind of not known as well for that, but I think I like him defensively when I have seen him. So definitely in the top 2 here. Number 1, Yordan Alvarez for the Astros. Astros have so many good players, man, and this is definitely one. Here's a guy he's going to be in 100 category. He's going to be right there for you. So I think they might have the corner outfielders are fantastic that they have. Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker. This guy, maybe a little bit older as he gets older. That's the only thing with him. He can maintain that, but there's no question here that he's the best left fielder in the MLB. Yordan Alvarez of the Astros. So there you go. Yordan Alvarez is there as well. So we got that taken care of as well. And we are now going to go ahead and talk your Baltimore Orioles. State of the franchise. So let's go ahead and talk the Orioles. One more segment. State of the franchise. So we're talking about how we are. Where are we right now? Big off-season of change. Massive changes in the team this off-season. Not so much on the field, but off the field we're going to go ahead and go over what's going on, state of the franchise as well for the Orioles, because we got spring training starting this week, and we're going to have spring training reports starting next week. So we're going to do a little state of the franchise. Where are we here? And I was almost remiss when I was putting this together. The biggest change of all is that we're going to have new owners. Hallelujah. No more Angelo's family as the owners of it. When I've read about it, that David Rubenstein is going to be in charge of the Baltimore Orioles. Earlier this year, the Angelo's family, who has been the controlling owner since '93, has agreed to sell controlling interest to a team in a group led by David Rubenstein and Mike. I don't think I know how to pronounce his last name. Orighetti, I think that's correct. For $1.72 billion per Sports Illustrated. They're saying that Angelo's family will stay on as a senior advisor, so they'll pay you some money to not listen to you. Essentially, this is fascinating though. Not to go too much on the business side, I will say this: I have not yet heard about Masson yet as part of this, so it'd be interesting to see what's going on there as far as that. I've heard about the Orioles, but they also own Masson, and that's a whole nother thing. But I like to see where that goes. But this is enormous as well. We're all thrilled about having new owners. Now, let's get to on the field. Who's managing this team? Brandon Hyde, 5th year as Oriole manager. So good for him. Orioles have actually, believe it or not, had managing stability considering how bad the team has been. They haven't had a lot of managers in recent years. I mean, they had Buck for like 7 or 8 years. I think it was 8 years. And Brandon Hyde now going into his 5th year. Drew French is now the pitching coach. He's been in Atlanta as well. He was a bullpen coach, and he's going to take over with the pitching as well. Hey, how good to be your first-year pitching coach and you get Corbin Burns on your team? That's a good way to look smart right away. Hitting coaches are back. Randy Fuller. I don't want to mess up his name. Board Shorts. They've kind of been a tandem for a couple years now, so they were kind of work on the hitting. I don't have a problem with teams having 2 hitting coaches as well, so that's fine. Freddie Gonzalez, longtime Braves manager, is still the bench coach. His 4th year. That's exactly what you want a lot of times, especially as a young manager. A perfect job for a manager, an older manager as well, a former manager, is a bench coach to kind of advise a younger manager as well. So that's an excellent move. Freddie Gonzalez had a lot of success as a manager. Anthony Sanders, been there since the beginning, 5th year at first base coach. And the pivotal third base coach, Tony Monsanto, is there for his 3rd year. What happened in the offseason? Departures, went over that last week. Let's go real quick here. Adam Frazier's gone to the Royals. Kyle Gibson to the Cardinals. Jack Flaherty went away to the Tigers. Fujinami to the Mets. Aaron Hicks signs with the Angels. Part of the trade out the door. D.L. Hall and Joey Ortiz. They also lost a pick. What did we get? Sam Hilliard from the Braves, free agent signing. Possibly, maybe a guy. Good shot, I think he's got for the opening day roster. Not good news maybe for Ryan McKenna. I think definitely he could be a 4th outfielder. Jonathan Hensley, I think they'll give him a shot in he'll get a shot in training. He'll get a shot in spring training. Throws really hard. Actually, perfect guy for a bullpen. Always want a guy who could throw like that. Craig Kimball is going to take over as closer because you're not going to have Felix Bautista. Bautista actually had another surgery, unfortunately. So it doesn't look like you're going to have him at all this year. And the war daddy, not Max Scherzer, Corbin Burns, the biggest trade, one of the biggest trades in Orioles history. You're going to have him as your ace of the squad. Orioles, prospects. Who are your top prospects? Now, you did lose DL. You did lose Joey Ortiz. Top prospect. Jackson Holiday, still in prospect status. You should see him. I'm hearing some people say that Garner is going to play at short. He's going to play at second. I'm not buying that. I think this is kind of what I've talked about. I've talked about it a couple times, but the whole well, we're gonna move him around, and I don't buy it. I definitely think he's going to be at shortstop. Sam Velasco, I think, is an excellent catching prospect as well. Interesting to see how that goes. This is the prize of your international scouting that you've done. Colton Cowser, Kobe Mayo, Heston Kjerstad, all three of those guys will be at the major league level at some point this year. I'd be surprised. Mayo, maybe later rather than sooner. Maybe after the break for him, I could see him probably possibly spending the first half down there. Maybe even later than that. Maybe like August or something. Where before you see Kobe Mayo, Cade Povich, Chance McDermott is going to be the top pitching prospects. So with DL gone and Grayson in the majors, now this is now the first time you can almost say weakness in the farm system. You don't have great pitching prospects at this point. So keep that in mind. I think that's part of why the Burns trade was made, because you didn't have it anyway, but now you don't have that anymore. Povich and McDermott, I think they'll get a shot. Probably they spend most of the year in AAA, but we will see. Those would be the names to keep an eye on in case there's an injury to Means or Kramer or anybody in the rotation. Those guys, or even the bullpen, is a possibility. 5 biggest series on the schedule. Can't have a big Orioles series without the Yankees. So the Yankees last year, what they've already done in the offseason, getting Juan Soto, they may not be done. They may have their eye on Corey Bellinger. They may have their eye on Cody Bellinger. They may have their eye on Blake Snell. We will see how that goes in the offseason. A big early test against the Yankees. That's big. Team was in the World Series last year. Arizona Diamondbacks have improved themselves. So again, having them come to Camden Yards May 12th, that is going to be huge series for them as well. Diamondbacks are really good in that division. Had it not been for the Dodgers in that division, I mean, we would absolutely be saying the Diamondbacks would be one of the favorites there. The Braves, I think, are hands down one of the best teams in all of baseball. That's a huge series for them. Coming into Camden Yards, June 11th and 13th. I would love it to see what you would do in that series is to match up Burns and Grayson and those guys with that. Because I think it would be a great barometer for the postseason, because that's the best. You could argue they have the best batting order in all of baseball with all those guys. Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna might be the best player in all of baseball, some people are saying. So all that lineup, that'll be a big barometer for them. The team that actually won it, the World Series, Texas Rangers, right around the break there. So that'll be pretty. We'll know by then, right? You'll be at the All-Star break. You'll know by then how good you are, how good you're doing. I think this could be a match for the ALCS preview here for the Orioles. If you're playing the Rangers, Rangers are really good. Dodgers are excellent. So you want to see a little bit of a maybe World Series preview. The Dodgers with that phenomenal talent that they have everywhere with Ohtani and everything like that. Huge series for them as well. 5 storylines. Oh, well. 1, how good is Jackson Holliday? I think he's phenomenal. I think you're worried for nothing. I think we haven't seen it yet. This guy, when you dominate at the low levels like that, there's no chance you can't play the majors. He will struggle a bit at times. I've seen this. I think he'll start out great, but guys might struggle a bit at intervals. Maybe like once you get to June, you get to the dog days, it's not always so great all the time. But I think Jackson Holliday is not a lot to worry about. With the new ownership, will things change? They already have. I don't think the Burns signing happens with the Angeloses. Michael Elias wouldn't even have wasted his time. The Burns camp probably wouldn't even have wasted their time. So the fact that they have guys now, you have 2 guys already making $15 million. That's a change. That's not an accident. Along with Kimbrel, that's not an accident. That never happened under the Angelos era. In recent years, I mean, you have to go back all the way to when Davey Johnson was manager for anything like that. Gunnar Henderson, will Adley or Gunnar get an extension? I'm way more confident about it now. Way more confident about it now. Now that the owner will have resources once they completely take over, I absolutely believe they're going to keep Adley and Gunner in the long term because you'd be crazy not to. No way, Brandon, right? There's no way Brandon Hyde or whatever doesn't want him. Of course you do. Of course you want Brandon. Of course you want them to stay. How much will the Orioles miss Felix Bautista with Craig Kimbrell? A good bit. He's not Craig Kimbrell is not Felix Bautista at this point of his career. Kimbrell will do a good job, but he won't be the most dominant closer in the American League like Felix Bautista was. So it's a little bit of a concern. But I think that's about as good as a replacement as you're going to find. Honestly, I don't think you could do. It could have been far worse than that. But you're not getting. Let's be clear. You're no longer getting the best closer in the AL anymore. So keep that in mind. And will the Orioles win the World Series? I sure hope so. One of my first memories of baseball was 1983, when the Orioles won the World Series. When I was about 6 years old, I believe, and when Dempsey hit the homer, and I've still been waiting. I'll go into that more with my ML preview video, but I'll say this right now: this is no reason why you can't. None. There's everything you have everything you need. You have power hitters. You have a good offense. You have a good solid roundup. You have a good closer. You have a good ace. You have a good rotation. You're solid defensively. You absolutely can do this. No question about it. So, all right. Thank you very much for joining us this week for our Ravery Sports podcast. We thank you for watching us. Definitely, if you enjoyed a lot of this content, it was valuable, like and subscribe to all of our social media content. Share, tell your friends. One more thing, definitely check out our website one more time. I usually don't say this at the end, but I have some time finally. At the end, ravorisports.company.site. You can go to the website and get all of our merchandise. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day.